Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in to the Spirit of Vinyl, where you just get to sit and listen to me talk and whatever about the records I have in my collection. My name is Craig, and I'll be your host this week and always. Like I said, thanks again for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. Hey, this week I just want to talk about this record I found. Well, it is a record that I found. One of the ones from the dumpster find that I've talked about previous. A band I'd never heard of before. It's been in my collection for a couple of years since I found it, and I've never played it until earlier this week. And it is from a band called Sinner. Sinner is a German band from the 80s. This is their third album. It is called, Danger Zone. And actually, these guys are kind of like a power metal type band. They sort of reminded me of Accept. I listened to it the other day and I thought, God damn, this is pretty good. How come I've never heard of these guys? And if you have heard of these guys, I've missed the boat, apparently. They're still around in some variation or another and have been for a while. But apparently, this is, from what I was reading, this is their last album of their kind of heavier power metal type sound. It was listed here as a direct metal mastering. I had no idea what the fuck that meant, so I looked it up, and apparently that means the lacquer that's cut, instead of cutting it on lacquer and then making the stampers in the lacquer, it is cut directly onto a piece of copper, so you don't have to continually make stampers or whatever. Supposedly it's going to make it sound better or whatever. And actually, this album does sound pretty good. I said this is a German band, and this is from Noise Records from West Germany. It's got a nice picture in the back. I've got this listed as near mint all the way. Basically, for this cover, there's that little ding right there in the corner. Besides that, everything else is pretty thin. Like I said, it's from West Germany. So before the fall of the wall and all that, they said West Germany instead of just Germany on them. Still has the inner sleeve, which has got pictures of the band. It's got lyrics for 4 of the tracks on here, how they chose the 4 of the 10, or I think there's 10, right? How they chose 4 of the 10 to put on there, I have no idea. The other side of the sleeve is just a blank piece of paper. But, it's pretty cool. The record itself, it's got a really cool label on it. I kind of like that. This Noise Records label. As you can see, glossy, shiny all the way through on both sides. Excellent pressing, excellent sounding, near mint. I've got it listed as near mint for maybe I should change the cover to VG Plus because of that little ding. Overall, it was pretty cool. It's got a cool cover. I kind of like it. We got this cool drawing of this, car busting through glass with this chick in the leather and stuff. The back of the this picture of the band here kind of look like Slayer a little bit early days. They sound, like I said, the sound is sort of like Accept meets Judas Priest type of sound, and it's actually very good. I actually liked it a lot. And like I said, I'd never heard of this band before. I found this in the find in the dumpster, and when I first was setting them all around, due to the picture on the back and the era, I had them put in my genre because I break up my collection by genres, right? So I had them in hair metal. So when it came up, I allowed Discogs to pick a record for me to talk about this week, and this is the one that came up. And then I played it, and I'm like, well, these guys are not hair metal, that's for sure. They are basically German power speed metal. Not speed metal in the essence of like really fast music like Slayer, but it's still pretty heavy. Dueling guitars, bass player. They're a 4-piece. They have 2 guitars. The lead singer plays the bass. They have a drummer, and it's actually pretty good. He does remind me of Udo, early Udo from Accept, voice-wise, style-wise, very much like that. Don't think like Scorpions Germany, think more like Accept. And that's what these guys sound like. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good album. I definitely listened to it again and again, I'm sure. When I played it the other day, I was kind of bummed out because I'd had this record for like 2 years since I found all those records in the dumpster. This was one of those. And I'd never played it until the other day. And then I played it and I'm like, God, it's actually pretty goddamn good. I should listen to it more often. And I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not giving it a chance earlier. Of course, when you have that many records and you find that many, it's hard to listen to them all. And we all get stuck in the same thing over and over. We listen to our favorite bands and our favorite albums, and we have to pull ourselves away from that to listen to something we've never heard and not sure what we're going to hear until we hear it. And then we can be pleasantly surprised. So overall, I give this record, I don't know, 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's pretty good. If you want a copy of it, there's not many on Discogs. There's only 4 for sale, and it'll cost you around $50. If you're into that era of music, you probably already have it. If you like that German power metal sound, you probably already have a copy and know exactly who I'm talking about. I honestly had no idea. I'd never heard of these guys before until I found this, and I was aware that I had it, but I'd never played it until just the other day. And I will be listening to this again because it reminds me of that early 80s power metal type sound that we were getting, that faster, heavier stuff. We had early thrash. This is not a thrash album. It's just not quite chunky enough for me to be considered thrash. And it does have some slower parts in and out, but it's got good guitar work, good bass. The singer's got a decent voice, and they're a pretty decent band. Apparently, they weren't very popular. They didn't sell that many. Their first 3 albums, which is the third of those first 3 albums, they sold like 200,000 copies all together with all 3 albums. This is their first album on Noise Records. And then from what I was reading, they kind of changed their sound to sort of fit into that 80s more glam hair type sound. I've never heard it, so I don't know what that sounds like. The only reference I have is this one album. So yeah, I would go ahead if you happen to run across this and you can get it at a decent price, go ahead and pick it up. So the cover's a little thin. It is from West Germany, from what I understand, and it's actually in really good shape for as thin as it is. And you pick it up, it's really light. The record, like I said, shiny and new, still has the inner sleeve. Almost 40 years old, came out in 1984, so 39 years old, and still sounds as good as the day as it was when it was picked up. Now, what Mike, who owned this collection beforehand, that I found, what he was thinking about this when he bought it, I have no idea. Maybe he was in Germany, saw it, bought it, or whatever. He did have a lot of records from other countries. I doubt he had it imported into the United States. So maybe it was something he had seen. Maybe he'd seen them, maybe he was stationed in Germany and he'd heard of this band or whatever, because apparently they were doing fairly well in Germany for the time, So overall for me, it does take me back to that era of that 80s music and hearing those types of sounds that I'd never heard before, in the early 80s, 84, I'm 14, 15 years old. Music was changing. We were getting hair metal. We were getting thrash. But before that, we had bands like Loverboy and Styx and Journey and stuff like that. So music was changing. And a band like Sinner was that new sound, that quote new sound that was coming out at that time. So I actually really enjoyed it. And they do remind me of Accept, and they remind me a little bit of Priest with the dueling guitars. His voice is pretty goddamn good, honestly. And I will be listening to this album again. And maybe if I see some other stuff out there, I'll pick it up. Although there's probably not a whole lot of it, seeing how they weren't that popular and didn't sell that many copies of records. That means it's going to be harder to find. Like I said, on Discogs, there's only 4 available altogether, only 1 from the United States, and it'll run you $50 altogether with shipping and everything else. So is it worth the $50? You got something that you really want for $50, buy that instead. But you happen to run across this, go ahead and give it a pickup. All right, so that's pretty much it for me. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and like and subscribe so you know when I put out new content. And I will talk to you guys all later. So yeah, this week, Sinner, give it a listen. I think you'll really enjoy it. All right, thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you guys later.